Hello, I'm Riley, and me, Kate, Tori, and Marlene are here to talk about reproductive rights. So, we wanted to introduce with some pictures from the NARAL protests and just the pro choice movement in general. And we also wanted to show a video from a NARAL donation ad.
We imagined a brighter future for our children, a future full of freedom, the freedom to choose. Only we should get to decide what's best for ourselves and our families. We fought to push progress forward. Now they want to rewind history. They want to rewind our freedoms. But we fought too hard to get here. We won't go back. The future is forward. The fight for reproductive freedom in this country is not a new battle. Please make a donation today in the name of someone who's passed the baton in the fight for your rights.
So, a little bit about the context of the pro choice and reproductive rights movement. Women did not have easy access to contraceptives for years before, and if a woman found herself with an unwanted pregnancy, a safe abortion was basically out of the question. Back alley abortions were very common, which basically means that women were either having procedures done by doctors in private off the record, or they were getting or giving themselves abortions by any means necessary. These procedures were extremely unsafe and often caused serious harm to these women, if not death. And illegal abortion still accounted for 17% of all deaths attributed to pregnancy and childbirth in 1965. And these are just the numbers that were officially reported. The actual number was probably much higher. Abortions were also seen as extremely taboo, and the conservative men who filled the courts within the United States believed that they had the right to decide what a woman could do with her own body until women finally fought back. And on our next slide, the creation of the pro-choice movement. In the early 1960s, the second wave of feminism came about, originally fighting for equality in the workplace, and a subcategory was formed focusing on women's reproductive rights and the right to choose, basically meaning that women just wanted rights over their own bodies. One landmark case in the fight for reproductive rights was Roe v. Wade in 1973. One woman, anonymously named Jane Roe, fought against the state of Texas for the right to an abortion. The case was argued in front of the Supreme Court, with Roe stating that current Texas laws were unconstitutional and infringed upon the 14th Amendment and her right to privacy. She won her case, and the precedent was then set for the right to a safe and legal abortion across all 50 states. Organizations have been fighting for almost 50 years to secure the ruling of this case, make sure that every woman has the right to a safe and legal abortion, as well as access to contraceptives, including the organization we're going to discuss here, which is NARAL. So the National Association for the Repeal of Abortion Laws, which we know as NARAL, was founded by Bernard Nathanson and Betty Friedan, who are known activists and feminists within the women's movement. It was established in 1969, and NARAL is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization with the goal to protect reproductive rights and educate others of those rights.
The primary goal of NARAL Pro-Choice America is to promote freedom for everyone. The organization looks at access to abortion, contraception, protection for pregnant women, and paid family leave in the workplace. Women should be in charge of their own bodies and healthcare, and anything less that is taken away basic right for humans and women. NARAL focuses largely on the right to obtain an abortion legally and safely. They believe that abortion is a right of women that should not be taken away. A quote from NARAL's website states, "When the right to abortion is endangered, the fundamental equality of women is threatened. A woman can never be equal if she's denied basic right to make decisions for herself and her family." Next, I'll talk about contraceptives. There are a ton of reasons for women choosing to use birth control that do not always include preventing pregnancy. Although a bonus, taking a contraception or contraceptive pill can help with acne problems and hormonal issues in women as well. Women in the workplace often face discrimination as well. Women are not treated as well as they should be in the workplace, and when they get pregnant, are not often taken care of financially. The other hardship that women face is not being hired because of pregnancies or the desire to soon be pregnant and to start families, and businesses do not want them to eventually leave for maternity. When women choose to have children, their employer should respect that choice and not discriminate against them. Lastly, paid family leave. The final issue that NARAL is responsible for educating society as well as fighting to make into something that is available across the board for families and women with children is paid family leave. All parents, including those who adopt, deserve time to nurture their children and to care for family members without the fear of financial instability. There are so many families across the board that cannot afford to take time off if their employer does not have a paid family leave program in place. It is crucial in the development of young children to be around their parents and caretakers, and that can affect the children in the long run. Families should not be put in the hard place of deciding what is more important, spending time with your child or being financially stable.
Okay, one of the most major and notable impacts of the NARA organization has been protecting women's reproductive rights and health. For example, they have been able to lobby in Congress and ensure that their interests are heard. One of their most notable impacts was successfully stopping the conservative anti-pro-choice Supreme Court nomination Robert Burke in 1987. Additionally, through their grassroots campaign, they've been able to bring more voters out to participate in the democratic process. Another notable practice that has changed as a result of the advocacy from NARAL has been the redefining of the word choice. To many, being pro-choice means supporting a woman's autonomy regarding their right to terminate or fulfill a pregnancy. However, one very noteworthy contemporary change of practice that has and is still being made is having the word choice be redefined to mean a woman's right to terminate a pregnancy and the right to begin one. Some of the most notable campaigns organized by NARAL include Abortion Rights Silent No More. This campaign was aimed at reducing the stigma surrounding abortions. The campaign encouraged women to share their abortion story. This movement empowered thousands and helped the topic of abortion become less taboo. Another important campaign was March for Women's Lives. In 1989, NARAL co-sponsored the Women's March in Washington, D.C. This march drew out crowds who advocated for the reproductive right laws and protest restrictive anti-choice laws. Since then, NARAL has continued to organize this march and still continues to this day. In 2017, NARAL also launched the People's Defense to protest Neil Gorsuch's Supreme Court nomination. This grassroots campaign was brought together in order to help encourage the Senate to not approve Gorsuch into the Supreme Court. The campaign ultimately failed, but was successful in bringing more people out to vote. The Ask About Abortion campaign was another successful campaign organized by NARAL. Over 50,000 Americans participated in asking debate moderators to ask about abortions during Democratic primary debates. This helped shine light on the fact that abortion isn't an issue that can't be passed over. Rather, it's an issue of high importance that affects many. Next slide.
Rhetoric of NARAL. Freedom for Everyone makes it clear that NARAL exists to help everyone without bias and discrimination. Us versus them means as long as NARAL and pro-choice exist in America, there will always be a them. They are the people that are pro-life and fight for that cause. Symbols and slogans. NARAL's symbols represent freedom of choice for everyone. Much like symbols, slogans explain what the organization believes in, but they use phrases. Symbols and slogans for NARAL are found on t-shirts and their website. Framing and perceptions of the past, references to Roe versus Wade. NARAL frames abortion in a way that is beneficial to women. As with many pro-choice organizations, NARAL references the terrors of back alley abortions before talking about Roe versus Wade. These are referenced so their audiences can realize a better present and future. Perceptions of social reality. NARAL fights to break down people's realities and show that women will lose rights if Roe versus Wade is overturned. Freedom as an ideograph. The term freedom is interpreted in many politically different ways. It can be liberalism in capitalist society, or it can be used for reproductive rights. Reproductive freedom is a right. Online activism. NARAL posts on social media, sharing their hashtags and getting members of the movement to stand up for their beliefs. NARAL also shows appreciation to other organizations like Planned Parenthood. Other directed movement. NARAL isn't made up of people who have had or needed abortions. It's made up of people who support the right to choose and the people who have chosen. Planned Parenthood versus NARAL. Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is an advocate of NARAL. They are coinciding. They are funded for medical services they provide. They receive federal grants for being a legitimate healthcare provider. Planned Parenthood is available to everyone. They welcome the insured and uninsured, and Medicaid is through Social Security. Title X, or Title 10, not to be confused with Title 10 having to do with the Air Force. Title 10 provides birth control and healthcare to low-income families and individuals. NARAL. NARAL is funded through grants, fundraising, etc. Being a nonprofit organization, they are also funded by political action committees that hold sway during elections, and their own foundation. NARAL is also open to everybody. They defend and fight for the right to provide reproductive health care for all.
I feel great indignation as a woman to think that women have to subject themselves to second-rate medical care for a safe surgical procedure.
Good evening. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions.
Give up this war against our lives, because we will control our bodies and we will not go back.
This is something central to a woman's life, to her dignity. It's a decision that she must make for herself.
That's why NARAL is right in asking, who decides?
It goes to the heart of who we are as women, our rights, our autonomy, our ability to make our own decisions. CNN has reported that this is the largest march in the history of the universe. I'm from Texas and I come from Sarah Weddington country, and Roe v. Wade will stand. Roe v. Wade will stand.
I want young girls and boys to come here 10, 20, 100 years from now to know that women fought for equality. It was not just given to them.
We have one message for Donald Trump. We will not be punished for owning our lives. Today the country met Brett Kavanaugh, but today the country also met the women around this country who will rise up against this nomination.
If a woman or a couple does not have the ability to decide if, when, and how to raise a family, then we are essentially taking away her right to pursue an education, a career, and define her own destiny.
The question we have to ask ourselves is, what are we willing to do to win this fight? And we can win this fight. We can win this fight because today is not the end, it is the beginning.
To conclude, this movement is not just about reproductive health. It is about women having equal rights and protection under laws where hegemony does not dictate their future. We believe that it is a key factor in equality for women, and there are so many cases in which it is the best possible choice for a woman to enter pregnancy. When abortions were illegal, women were dying because they tried to do it themselves or doctors could not do it safely. In recent years, abortion has become easier to talk about. The pro-choice and reproductive rights movement also fights for the access to birth control and Planned Parenthood. The movement is a fight for women's reproductive rights, healthcare, and freedom for everyone. Next slide. We have a couple of discussion questions now, which I will talk about right now. Do you believe that all forms of contraceptives, including birth control, should be easily obtainable by everyone? Have advocacy groups on either side of the pro-choice and pro-life debate been effective in your opinion? Do you think that there is an aspect of the pro-choice reproductive movement that our group touched on that could be changed in order to be more effective as an organization? What do you feel is the most powerful form of rhetoric for this particular movement? What do you feel is the least powerful form of rhetoric?
And here is our bibliography. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you learned more about the reproductive rights movement. Thank you.